Hello, and welcome to today's edition of Meet the Artist series on Artsy. Today, we're joined by an artist whose work spans decades, mediums, and movements, from cyberpunk collage art in the abandoned warehouses of 80s Brooklyn to documentaries on hip hop, Occupy Wall Street, and ecological storytelling. Chris Fiore is an award-winning filmmaker, mosaic photographer, and all-round chronicler of cultural transformation. From Backstage with Jay-Z to his stunning recent works Hallucination and Broadway and Swan, he stayed ahead of the curve while never losing sight of the big picture. Chris, welcome.
Welcome, and we are thrilled you're here at Artsy.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate
it. Thank you. Okay, let's start where so many great stories begin, Brooklyn. So you were in Williamsburg, living alone in a factory floor. I find that so romantically artistic.
We're a bunch of artists wrapped up in our art, not really wrapped up in maintaining the place like the people who had started it before me were. We were just kind of losing facility and everyone just kind of drifted away and I was really the only one left.
Can you describe that world to us?
104 South 4th Street, 4 or 5 blocks up from Domino Sugar Factories. Had great views. We're on the 7th floor, wall of glass.
So you have been described as a cyberpunk. How exactly were you working with that aesthetic way back then?
I've always been into sci-fi, and yeah, I still have my first edition of Neuromancer by William Gibson. I just have, I've been into it forever. And at the time, I was making little collages of body parts, my working theory being that almost every culture in the world throughout time has made its own version of the human figure, with the exception of Islam, of course. And so I wanted to create this sort of like hyper figure or meta figure. It was before Photoshop, and so I was only working with an X-Acto knife and glue and paper. So the figures kind of look really ginchy and weird, and I love the aesthetic. It was a really punk aesthetic, but it wasn't really satisfying. I became much more fascinated with the holes that were left in the magazines and the source material because they had this amazing figurative abstraction, a glimpse into like another plane of reality, just sort of like abstracted negative space that extended through time. I have recently taken some of those old collages and described them as prompts into Midjourney, and got some very interesting results.
It's a hard knock like you heard.
But you've also had some fascinating interactions with the music culture. Backstage, your documentary on Jay-Z, Hard Knock Live Tour.
Yeah.
So what was it like to step into that culture?
I didn't actually go on tour with Jay. What happened was Jay's partner at the time, Damon Dash, gave cameras to his crew. A friend of mine, Charles Stone, he was the guy who directed Drumline, was approached to direct it. He said, well, I don't really have time, and if I did, I would just give it to this editor I know. I got the meeting up at Miramax Dimension, and I was presented with a Nike sneaker box full of tapes, just a ton of tapes, and I was told to make a film out of it. Whatever I thought worked. Really, it took me like 6 months of just constant editing, and also another editor helping me out just to knock that thing out. Went back to making my artwork.
Speaking of your artwork, the ones you put on Artsy Portfolio, your artwork is great. You do still do that?
Not as much, because I started working with AI art, and my work is mostly collage. So I started using the AI like an old magazine or an old newspaper, just as a source material. It's not the same, of course, as like a 1950s Life magazine, but it's that same kind of oracular noise. And I did that for a couple of years. I still do it a little bit, but I don't feel like I'm making progress. I feel like I've sort of like hit the ceiling with the way I'm using it now. So I'm kind of rethinking art making and the use of AI at this point.
So I want to come to your films. Hallucination. How did that film come about?
My wife, Etsko, used to represent a fiber artist. She had asked me to photograph her work. Etzko was also working at a place called CRS, the Center for Remembering and Sharing, and they were kind enough to give me a one-man show. Opening night, Mariko just kind of approached me and she showed me her dance film on her phone, and we started talking. Turns out that she was classically trained in ballet and was also a Buto dancer. What a combination. One so expressive and so full of life. The other one just so mannered and, born of the atomic atrocity. And it was just like this great contrast. We just decided to shoot together.
So was it mostly improvisation in terms of dance?
We were making up stories as we went. The one that resonated the most with me is when she said, "I'm a hallucination." In this film, she's both the hallucination. She's also the one doing the hallucinating in the dance piece. He hated it.
Oh, no.
It just ended up in disaster. A friend of mine, Alex Cavarlo, he runs No Mystery Studios down on Lower Broadway, a huge hip-hop studio. A lot of greats have gone through there. And he gave me over 400 pieces of music. "Let me pay you. What can I pay you?" It's like, "Nah, don't worry about it." I'm like, "I'll make you a music video. Let me make you a video so you can get some of your music out there in a way differently than you have." I went through my stuff and I have so much old footage just because I love to shoot. I looked at that dance footage with Mariko and I was like, I got to do it. It was one of those things where everyone tells you you're wrong and you got to prove them wrong.
That's such an inspiration, right? That inspires me more than anything. Please tell me I'm wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
Williamsburg Bridge plays a big role, does it? And what's the story behind that?
That's kind of a freaky story. Okay, so when I was living in the squat, I had just gotten to New York. I'd lived most of my life out in the sticks, in the burbs. It's so hard to be alone in New York City, Before they put up all these walls and a door to prevent it, you used to just be able to jump over this little gap and then climb up a spiral staircase to the top of the bridge where the cables met, that tower. And you could climb up a little ladder over there and then climb out another little window, and there you'd be sitting on the top of the bridge. I'd get a little pint of tequila and just go up there and look out over the city and drink my tequila. It was just the one place I could be alone. I knew nobody would fuck with me. I wasn't going to get mugged because I'd been bugged like 5 or 6 times in Williamsburg.
Like, why did you integrate that into this film?
It had such an emotional hold on me.
So now coming to the Star film which I have watched, Broadway and Swan. That was so amazing. It's an epic. How did it come about?
In the first part of the film, we go upstate to Andes. We land at the studio of a stone carver named Ken Hiratsuka. And I'd been following Ken around for almost a decade, through just gathering material. And I think he just kind of got sick of me being around all the time. And he said, why don't you make a film about these other people, Carlos, one of the artists I follow in Broadway and Swan, I never really got along with him. Like, I always thought he was loud, obnoxious. He was always playing his music too loud. But after we got to know each other, it's like that thing where you don't like somebody and you're arguing all the time. Then you find out, you can be great friends.
Watching that, it's such a tedious process of breaking the material and then putting them together. You must have had a lot more footage to edit, right?
We shot the film in 3 different sections. We shot the first piece where we go up to Kenny's studio and they actually build the bird. And then the second, we're in Brooklyn making the sky. And then the third part, we're actually installing the piece. Each time I would shoot, I would go back and I'd kind of edit that little section down into its own little film. So by the end of it, I had the 3 sections already ready to go, but it was like they didn't really relate. And so I went and interviewed the guy who actually hired them, then a scientist from the National Audubon Society, to pull everything together, to really create this blend of art and science that would sort of be more compelling than either by itself.
If somebody had to actually mathematically think about this whole mosaic, it's a beautiful equation, how everything fit together.
I love that.
It's been raking up awards, right? Everywhere.
The Berlin Indie Film Festival, it won Best Artist Film. And then at Paris Cinefest in April, it won Best Green Environmental Film. So rewarding because really it was about weaving the science and the art together. And just this past June, it showed at Film Invasion Los Angeles for its North American premiere. And a week later, I found out that I had won the Grand Jury Award for Best Director for Featurette. And that was like, oh, that just freaked me the fuck out. I didn't see that coming.
Congratulations, that's great. Totally.
You know, at this point, I just hope I can get some paying gigs out of it.
Totally. No, was this also partly during the COVID time that?
Well, that's why it took so long to make. Yeah. I mean, I started shooting in 2019. Then we had to stop because there was scaffolding all over the building. And that came down around the same time that COVID hit. When they started installing this mosaic at 163rd Street and Broadway, they invited the participation of the people on the street by letting them put little pieces of mosaic. So the whole neighborhood got to participate in putting that mosaic together. I felt like I had captured something authentic, a beautiful moment in time. And I think that's what people are responding to, because it really was a different time. That's probably not going to happen again in our lifetimes, hopefully.
They should have like an inlaid TV screen. They're playing this. Tell it. So wouldn't that be awesome? A tile or something with a QR code, not a piece of paper.
A mosaic QR code.
Yes, why not?
Great idea, Patty.
Thank you so much. I mean, this entire interview has been a journey, climbing up the Williamsburg Bridge, making us feel like we missed out on something.
No, you only missed out on potentially falling to your death from the towers up there.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. I really appreciate it.